All right, everybody, it's Camper here again, and it is time for my 2020 Appalachian Trail through hike Q&A video, part 1. All right, so I had over 100 questions asked. Now, some of them were duplicates. So the duplicate type or questions that were really close, I just kind of combine them together. So there'll be probably about 80 questions that I'll answer. So hopefully I can get them in 2 or 3 videos. All right, let's start right off the bat here. Did you ever push yourself too hard, and when? And this is by Wingnut. Yes. You would think that by day 129, I would figure that that wouldn't happen. But sure enough, day 129 was a tough day. It was our first full day in Vermont. So we started at the Seth Warner shelter, and we went 21.9 miles to the Glastonbury Mountain Lookout Tower. And there's camping areas right there. During that entire day, I was doubting and thinking to myself, what am I doing? This is too hot. There's too many tough mountains to go over. Should I stop short? It was just a tough day, physically, mentally, but we did it. We pushed it. There was about an 11-mile stretch of that 21.9 miles where there was no water source. And so that weighs on myself mentally also and physically, because you just can't replenish enough, because you have to take it easy with your water. So that was my toughest day for sure. All right, next question is, where did you meet Chitchat and Dinner Bell? I met Chitchat and Dinner Bell. It was on the AT, of course, and it was a Dry Slice Gap. So it was just a couple miles past Charlie's Bunyan, which is about 4 miles north of Newfound Gap, Tennessee, right in the Smokies. I knew Chitchat and Dinner Bell only from YouTube, but I had never met them before. And so that was the first time that I met them on trail. I was taking a break with Screwball, and we heard them kind of coming our way. And basically, I've been hiking with them ever since. That question is by Thomas McGraw. Thomas McGrave. Next question is by Wesley Russell, Peter Grant, A. McGee, and M. Kiefer. Would I ever through hike the AT again? Answer, I would love to. Will I? I don't know. It's tough to be away from my wife and kids, my family for that long. I don't know if I'll ever do, something like that again. I will definitely hike sections of the Appalachian Trail again. Day hikes and week hikes for years to come. I love the AT. I would love to be able to do another through hike, maybe years from now, but we'll see. But no future plans. Next question is by Peter Grant, Molly SS, and Richard Ross. Any plans in the Triple Crown? So doing the PCT or the CDT? None. Never was in my cards to do that. Next question. Have I heard of any thru-hikers on the AT that had COVID? Nope. Not a one. And this question is by Peter Grant. No. Not a single Appalachian Trail thru-hiker that I know of or I heard of. And believe me, if there was, stuff travels really quick on the Appalachian Trail. We hear rumors, everything. Quickly, the word travels. And I did not know of a single one, at least, that got it when they were on the trail. Maybe they went home due to COVID restriction and got it when they went home. Hard to tell. But actual thru-hikers that were on the trail, no. All right, any one thing that caused conflict in your tramley, and how did it get resolved? And this is by John Grider. Sure. I mean, just like any family, you're going to have disagreements. It's not always, a perfect situation. There were times where we would just agree to disagree, and that's kind of how we would always kind of, if we were maybe disagreeing on a topic or whatever, because when you're hiking, you're bored, you're creating conversation with each other, you're laughing and joking and asking questions about life. And I understood, and so did they. We had quite an age gap difference. Although we had everything in common about the AT, a lot of my life experiences of it not the same as theirs, and my opinions, of course, will reflect that. So we would just agree to disagree and keep going. This question is by our buddy George Froll. Who was more fun, Chit Chat or Dinner Bell? Well, okay, Chit Chat had a very vivacious personality, just very bubbly, straightforward, no gray area humor, and I loved it. I also loved Dinner Bell's sense of humor, very dry and kind of sneaky. Sometimes he would say something, a couple seconds would go by, and I would just go, bah! I would realize what he was saying, and it would just crack me up, and I'd think about it all day and laugh. So I don't know. They both are very funny people and fun to be around. So nice try, George. I don't think one was more funny than the other. Was there any lessons that you learned? This is by Green Feet Outdoors. Yeah, I would say I wish I would have started in better shape. The Appalachian Trail, guess what, folks? You can start this trail and not be in great shape and still be a thru hiker. I'm a perfect example. I was 239 pounds. I'm 5'9", okay? It took me a while to get through Georgia, but I never had quit in me. I just went low and slow, low miles at a slower pace until I started feeling more confident physically. The next lesson I learned, a tramily really should be formed on trail kind of organically. Okay, I don't recommend pre-arranging tramlines. You're going to find people on trail that you jive with right off the bat that have about the same type of miles that you want to hike. You're also going to probably change tramlines throughout the trail. I didn't start with Chit Chat and Dinner Bell. I met them, at like, I don't know, mile 200 and something. But then we were together the rest of the way. That's really kind of uncommon. So we were together for over 1,900 miles, and that's kind of rare. Usually somebody will go through 3 or 4 tramlines. Next question. Scariest moment on a trail. This is by Chainsaw in the Woods. I would say day 14, February 28th, snowstorm hit hard. Very cold temperatures. Pickleball and I had to pull up short that day and put up our tents to get away from the snowstorm. It was tough. And so we were in our tents at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. And so imagine that. It's bitter cold, winds. We're by ourselves in our, I'm in my tent, he's in his tent. We're not talking, we're not communicating. We're just trying to stay warm. That's a long time to stay in your tent. And I got up in the morning and my tent was, a third of the way, snow drifts. That was scary. And I knew what I had to do the rest of that day. I had to hike in drifts. So I would say that was one of the scariest moments on trail. Anything that I could have done differently to help my wife back home handle the stresses. This is by John Grider. My wife is a very strong-willed, intelligent, beautiful woman, and she handled it really, really well. Was it easy for her? No, it wasn't. It was very stressful. Think about everything that happened from the time I left for the trail in mid-February until the time I got back. COVID happened, and then it just kind of progressed. And then there were racial tensions and riots, and we live, in the city limits, and some of that was happening in our city when I was gone. So, it was tough. It was tough, for my wife and kids and me not being here, and that I don't know how I could have dealt differently with it. I did go home for about 34 days during the height of the COVID restrictions on trail. And at that time, I really realized what they had been going through. So, yeah. Next question is, did you see a lot of deer, bear, or moose? This is by Fred Tucker. Saw mostly deer, besides squirrels, tons of squirrels. But I saw a lot of deer, mostly in North Carolina and Virginia. Bear, lots of bear in Virginia. Never saw a bear in another state. Moose, nope, zero moose. Lots of moose scat from Vermont all the way to Katan, basically, but no moose. How did you minimize blisters? This is by Art Mercer. Good boots, Keen Target 3 mids, good socks, darn tough socks, and also one pair of sealskin waterproof socks. Whenever I'd feel a hot spot, stop. I would take a break on a log or the nearest rock, take my pack off. I would get out my Leco tape, and I would put a little piece of that tape on any hot spot that I would feel. Zero blisters the entire through hike. What was my vlogging, electronics, and how often a day did I use gut hooks? Okay, well, my electronics was my iPhone. And I had a charger for it, a wall charger, so when I was in town. And then I also had my battery bank, Insignia 12,000 mAh. I use my phone for taking pictures, videos, processing, downloading, and editing. I use KindMaster as my software to edit my videos. And of course I use my phone for all my apps, you know, my gut hook apps, for texting and calling. Now, with your gut hook app, your GPS is never affected. Okay, so it doesn't matter if you don't have phone service, you'll always have GPS. And I would look at my gut hook app about 25 to 30 times a day. All right, what was the one thing you were not prepared for? This is by Mikey Wee. That is an easy one. I was not prepared to through hike the Appalachian Trail during a pandemic. I don't know what else I could say about that. Was there ever any thoughts of quitting? This is a good question. It's by Mr. Jimmy and also Walk Tall. No. What was the most difficult part of your through hike? By Walk Tall. I would say every time I would return to the trail after a near zero. Oh, that was tough. That was tough. That first day was always the most difficult part. How did you push negative thoughts away? Again, this is by Walk Tall. You know, I've always been a glass half full guy. And anytime that I would start maybe doubting, maybe like, oh man, am I pushing it too hard? Or should I got water at the last water source? Now I'm running kind of low. I started to doubt a little bit stuff here and there. If I started getting kind of tired or sore a little bit, I would just think to myself also, you know, I'm doing this hike for these kids back home, you know, for the Helen DeVos Children's Hospital. And there wasn't going to be anything there was no quit in me. So I would just think about that, and just positive thoughts would just pop in my head. Plus, being around positive people, okay? Just like in real life, surround yourself with positive people, and you can push negative thoughts away. All right, what was the favorite part of the trail? I would have to say Maine. Maine was my favorite part of the trail. I would say Maine, and then there's one area in New Hampshire. Is probably a tie between the two. I love the 100-mile wilderness. I didn't want it to end. Even though I knew that my hike was about to end, and I was ready for that. But I love the fact that I love the 100-mile wilderness. It's just so beautiful. And a part of that is because you know that your hike is coming to an end, and you're so excited for that. Like, I'm going to do it. I'm going to finish where I started. And then I would say in New Hampshire, Mount Webster Cliffs, and Mount Jackson in central New Hampshire. The most breathtaking views. That question is by Julie Bandine. So thank you, Julie. Let's see. Favorite view. This is also by Julie Bandine. I would say it's a tie between McAfee Knob in Virginia, mile 714. And then South Twin Mountain in New Hampshire at mile 1833. That's the first glimpse of Mount Washington. And it feels like you could see for 1,000 miles. And you're that high up, you know, you're 5,000 feet up. Just breathtaking. All right, what was my favorite state? Maine, Julie Bandine. Just to answer that again, Maine was my favorite state. My least favorite state, Julie asked, was New Jersey. Now, New Jersey's okay, but I just looked at everything and I thought about it, and, you know, it was really hot when I went through New Jersey. It's not incredibly beautiful, and every day I just thought, man, I just want to get through the day. I just want to get through the day. And I was pretty pumped when I crossed that New Jersey into New York, so I was kind of glad it was over. Let's see here. Next question is, what was my favorite food? This is another Julie Bandine question. Favorite AT town food was always pizza for me. That was what I would crave. My least favorite town food was Chinese. I never got a good Chinese dinner in town. Oh, and 2021 hikers, 2022 hikers, stay away from the Chinese restaurant that is near Angel Rest Hostel. It's next to the grocery store. It's walking distance from the hostel. Do not waste your time. My favorite trail town that I stayed in, I would have to say, is Manchester Center, Vermont, and Rangeley, Maine. All right, and on the flip side, what AT town did you like the least? I did not like Damascus, Virginia. And I think a part of it was the time that we went through. We went through during the height of the fear of COVID. And so the people in the town were not nice to us. They were very rude, actually. And we did not have a lot of lodging choices. Where we stayed, I would no way ever stay there. That was not our plan to stay there, but it was really the only option. So yeah, I would say that was my least favorite town. Next question, what happened to Oso? This is by Richard Nagri. Well, Oso never left the trail. When we left the trail, Chit-Chat Dinner Bell and I left the trail on March 27th, Oso kept going. And the reason why a lot of you never saw Oso again is because he stopped vlogging at that point. So he did put up a lot of Instagram posts quite regularly, but he stopped his YouTube channel. And he actually summited Katan just a couple days before we did. So we almost caught you, Oso. All right, any good trail hacks? And this is by his plan. My number one trail hacks was, again, how I used my waterproof socks. I used the sealskin waterproof sock. I would only wear them when I knew that my hiking boots, which were, let's say, completely wet, I knew they would not be dry in the morning. I would put on these nice, clean, dry waterproof socks at night. So in the morning, they're nice and toasty warm. I would slide them into my wet boot, and my feet stayed dry all day. Not only did my feet stay dry all day, those waterproof socks would help dry out the inside of the boot. So that was my number one hack. Any healthy trail foods? No, there's no such thing as healthy trail foods. It does not exist. The healthiest trail eater that I saw would have to be Burst. I mean, I couldn't believe it. She's vegan, but she would eat, dried chickpeas and natural peanut butter and dried fruits and nuts and granolas and hummus and lentil and couscous. She did not cheat. She stayed to her. I was impressed. Way to go, Burst. You could still thru-hike the Appalachian Trail and eat healthy, but no way I could do it. All right, what was your biggest mental and physical struggles? This is by Project YOLO. Okay, I would say my biggest mental struggle was worrying about my family back home. All of us. You asked this to 100 of us, they're going to tell you the same thing. That was our biggest mental struggle, at least this year during 2020. With everything that was going on during the pandemic, the riots back home, that was tough. What was my biggest physical struggle? I would say it was the descents in New Hampshire, in the presidentials. Not so much the ascents, but it was the descents in New Hampshire and in southern Maine. Very, very physically strenuous. strenuous. All right. Next question, greatest blessings of your trek. This is by Warren Davidson. I would say all of the tremendous support that I received from all of you out there, for Camper for a Cure. That was my biggest blessing, was the tremendous support. And of course, having the support of my family back home, you know, my wife and daughter and all of my family and extended family was a huge blessing. My followers on YouTube with your positive comments, I mean, it just made, you know, everything worthwhile. All right, what was my best trail meal? I would have to say Mountain House spaghetti with meat sauce. My best off-trail meal, without question, would be Lunda's spaghetti with meat sauce, garlic bread, and salad. Nothing is even a close second. All right, that question is by Chad Reno. Next question is by Randy Simpkins. How has your through hike impacted your spiritual life? You know, there were several moments on the trail that were very spiritual, you know, whether it was, you know, I would be having a tough day and I'm kind of in a green tunnel and then all of a sudden I turn a corner and all of a sudden I walk out and the trail goes onto this ledge and then you just finally have this amazing view and the sun's coming down on you. It just kind of really reaffirms, you know, my belief in my belief system. You know, I would say a prayer every morning. Often during the day, I would say a prayer. It's tough. The trail is definitely full of moments of joy that I can attribute to God. And when I would have tough times, you know, I would say, I would say, hey, I'm struggling here. You know, if you can show me, help me make a good decision, you know. So yeah, I would say that would be my best answer. Hiking for a charity, was it a good choice? And did I accomplish everything that I set out for? That is by Wingnut and also Sandy's Passion. Was it a good choice? No question. And did I accomplish what I started? I went above and beyond. My plan was to hopefully raise $5,000. I raised over $15,000 for this amazing charity. So yeah, in a nutshell, it was everything that I could think of. All right. Let's see, what is next on your bucket list? By N. Selman. You know, again, I've talked that I have no plans to really do any big through hikes, but there is a small through hike that I would like to do. I don't know how many years down the road, but the Camino de Santiago really intrigues me, and that might be something I could do with my wife also. So we'll see. Why did you change tents? Well, I did. I started with a Big Agnes Fly Creek ultralight 3-person tent, and I chose that. I wasn't really looking for a 3-person tent. I saw it was on sale. Then I saw how much it weighed. It weighed less than 3 pounds, and I thought, well, shoot, for something that weighs under 3 pounds, why not have more space? But I soon found out that I just don't need that space. And if I could shave another pound, 1 pound and 5 ounces off of that weight, and go to my Nemo Hornet 1-person, man, why not? So that was one of the reasons why I switched. I switched quite early too. At Gatlinburg, actually, is when I switched. I sent my Big Agnes home and I bought the Nemo Hornet 1-person. All right, how and why did you stick to the 6-minute format for your YouTube videos? This is by Old Goat in the Woods. You know, I planned early on that's what I was going to do, because really nobody else was doing 5 to 6 minutes videos. Everybody was doing 10 to 15 to 30 minute, 20-minute videos. And I knew that a lot of you that are out there watching were also watching several other hikers. And if you're watching, let's say, 5 other hikers and they're all 15 minutes, you could easily watch my 5 to 6 minute video. And I just wanted to kind of keep it short and sweet. It also took me less times to produce them. It took me less effort, less wear and tear on my software, quicker downloads and processing times to do these shorter videos. So that's why I did it. All right, next question. How did I keep track of each day's hike, miles and whatnot? This is by Old Goat in the Woods. Well, I would log all my info and my AWOL guide. And I carried the whole guide. I didn't just rip out the pieces. I carried the whole guide. It's really not that heavy. So every day I would mark in there where I started from, what mile mark, and then where I finished, what the mile mark was, and whether I slept in a tent, in a shelter, in a hostel, or a hotel. And then throughout the day, if there was anything, significant that happened, like something really cool or whatever, I would also take that note because I wanted that for my history, so my memories. So when I can go back, I can look back and say, oh yeah, I remember when this happened, or yeah, I stayed here, I stayed there. All right, let's see here. What was your most spiritual moment of your through hike? I would say day 155. I walked out onto Bemis Mountain, second peak. Wow. Oh my goodness, God is good. Wow. And it was about 15 miles south of Rangeley, Maine, and about 7 a.m. and what I saw unfolding in the sky, I was above the clouds, and so the clouds were beneath me, and these clouds looked like it was like a huge lake, and then all of a sudden sunbeams started to come down. I stood there for probably 10 minutes and just thanked God for everything. So I would say that would be my most spiritual moment on trail. All right, now my last question for this video is going to be it's a combination by John Grider and Sandy's Passions. How did you stay so positive and upbeat? Answer, easy. I was doing something that most people they can never do. I mean, I'm on the Appalachian Trail through hiking. Most people, they can't take 6 months off of their life to do this. So that's one of the reasons why I would stay positive and say, hey man, I mean, why not? I would also think to myself, wow, with everything that's going on in the world out there, there's no way that I'm going to put something that's not positive on my channel. Well, I mean, I'm pretty sure that you guys all know that through hiking the Appalachian Trail, 2,193 miles is pretty tough. But for me, this year, during a COVID year, you know what? You guys are going through so many tough things at home. The last thing that you wanted to watch was me complaining about my day. So that's why, that was one of the reasons why I tried to stay as positive as I could. So that is going to be it for this video. The next video will be coming out very shortly, part 2 of my Q&A. So thanks for watching, everybody, and we'll see you down trail.